What is going on, everyone, and welcome to my tank build video for Morrowind. So this build has been slightly revised, and before I start I want to say that there are plenty of ways to play a tank and there's no right or wrong answer. So this is just my build, and a few things are not best in slot, but it does work for me for veteran trials as main and off tank. So I'll go over all of those. And of course, in my build videos, we'll be going over pretty much everything in terms of potions, everything, and whatnot. So, let's start off with our attributes, because this one only takes a few minutes. So I have 25 into health and 39 into stamina. I also have it because I am an Imperial. I do believe that Imperials are usually the best choice if you're trying to make a tank, because they give you the extra passives under your racials. You get extra health, which is always good as a tank, not dying. Extra stamina, because you need to block a lot. And, well, this one, when your melee attacks have a 6% to restore your max 6% of your health. It's good, but it's not that important. Really, the things you want are max health and max stamina, so that's why we are an Imperial. And, yeah. So, 25 into health, 39 into stam. I keep it like this pretty much all the time, whether I'm main and off tanking, but I'll get into that a little bit later. I have about 44,000 health, just a little bit under, and 25,000 stamina, and magic is, I mean, whatever you want it. So our food, we have the tri-stat ones, but we'll get into that later. So let's go over our gear right now. For our two-piece, oh, actually, let me just superstar everything. So if you are only here just to see the build, take a screenshot. I'll give you 5 seconds, and then we'll get into like more detailed stuff. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So let's get into the build right now. Starting off, we have 5 into Plague Doctor. Now, my build is mostly centered around, one, I'm not like the best tank in the world. I'm okay. I can do vet trials with it, but I'm also not the best. So Plague Doctor kind of helps you if you are especially a new player. It just gives you a lot of extra health room, so you can make a few more mistakes and you'll still be fine. So the reason why we have that is because it gives you about like 8,000 extra health just from the set alone, and then all the enchants are health. Now, I've seen some people use prismatic enchants on this, which means you get like health, stamina, and magic, but I kind of just put them all into health because I'm bad. So that's why we have that. And then for our monster set, we use Bloodspawn. Now, this one is still purple in divines because I'm very unlucky and just can't get a sturdy piece. If you guys have watched my Undaunted Key opening series or my Crown Crate openings, you guys would know that my RNG is worse than the average player. So me getting a sturdy piece is like a miracle, and I haven't done it yet. So the fact that I got a sturdy helmet is probably a miracle of itself. So yeah, that's why I only have 1 gold and then 1 purple. So that's something I still have to upgrade. But if I were to have it, I would have it in sturdy, and of course, all of these are max health enchants. So, Plague Doctor, it is going down in price. Well, at least this is on the PC North American server. But it's still kind of expensive at this point. You could have a lot of other replacements for it, but this one's just more for me because if I were to stick at around 35,000 health, I'd probably just die to everything. Now, I mean, I could do it with 35,000, but I just kind of like having the extra safe room for everything. So our next set is Alkosh. Now, you can get Alkosh from Maw of Lorkhaj, and you get it in blue quality on normal and purple and gold on veteran. So ideally, it doesn't really matter what quality. Like, the difference between blue and gold is maybe like a couple hundred extra stamina in total. So min-maxing is min-maxing. If you want the best, you have to run the higher end trials, but I mean, the 5-piece set is really all you want it for. So if you're using blue, it's probably fine. If you're using gold, that is excellent. We have 3 shield play enchants because my build is more around like blocking and not dying, whereas some people try to build their tanks around like cool things where chaining from distances and all that stuff. Like, I would quote unquote like trick shots and trick builds, But really, I just want to do the standard, not die, and make sure everything is taunted around me. So when you have everything taunted around you, you're obviously going to get like stunned, and you're going to bash things to interrupt. So that's why we have 3 shield play and maximum blockage for sturdy. So in terms of I have 3 here, 3 in jewelry, and then sword and shield on both of them. I have 1 defending Sword of Alkosh. Now, as a tank, you want to know that the weapon type doesn't actually matter. So, like, if you have a sword, you have a dagger, mace, as long as it's one hand, it doesn't matter, like, what kind of weapon, as long as the trait is right. So, I have the Crusher enchant, which is reducing the physical and spell resistance by 1600 for 5 seconds. Ideally, you would want double defending on your weapons, and I don't have double defending because, once again, RNG is bad, won't drop. I only have 1, and then I have it infused. I've seen other people use powered weapons. Wait, that's not a powered. Like powered, so you get extra healing while you're on the back bar using your like chains and all that stuff. So what you want to do is play however you think you want it, but ideally, I think just most people just go straight defending, but I have it infused too. It's not bad. You can still do whatever you want with it, but I think just if you're trying to play it safe, double defending is the way to go. And in terms of the shields, this has been the same since pre-Morrowind, so this is what I've been using since then. I have 2 shields of Alkosh. 1 is infused, 1 is in divines. Those are not the traits you want. I just can't get the right ones. That's simple as that. And what you would want is like either reinforced or sturdy. Once again, more blocking is always good. And I've seen some people use prismatic, which is the enchant what we have right here. You get a little bit lower of all 3 stats, but you get all 3 stats instead of having like an individual one. So if I were to get like, let's say sturdy right now to this day, I would probably just put a health enchant on it, on both of them. But this is what I have, and I mean, it still works for me. So let's say you can't like find or afford a prismatic glyph. What do? Just put a healthy one, and you might have a little bit lower stamina. All you do to fix that is put more into stamina, take a little bit out of health, and you should be good to go. You could probably tweak it to your own playstyle. So yeah, so this is my main tank setup. And when I say main tank and off tank, main tank is like the person who holds the bosses in veteran trials, or not veteran, but just like trials in general. You're the one holding the bosses, and if you're off tank, that means you take the ads away and you kind of just support your group. So this is the main tank part of it. Now I know some off tanks that use Alkosh, but I just kind of like using it because this is just my overall build. I don't think Plague Doctor is that great for dungeons, but this is more of a trial build overall. So yeah, if you were to just do dungeons and stuff, you could pretty much just use anything you want. And so yeah, let's go on to their off tank. I'm just going to switch it up real quick. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna show you here. So this is what I had before. Let me see. I think this add-on is called Alpha Gear. You can just literally swap between sets at the click of a button. So this is my off tank set. I run 5 ebon pieces. This is all from like pre-Morrowind, but it still works to this day. All the Alkosh is still the same. Bloodspawn is still the same. The only thing I switched up is the 5-piece instead of Plague Doctor. So we have 5 ebon pieces. You get this in Crypt of Hearts. And the big pieces, which are the chest piece, legs, and that's it, are infused. And the 3 other pieces are straight sturdy. All the glyphs on here are prismatic, so that means we just get a little bit higher resources of everything. So as an off tank, you don't really need as much, so you're kind of just support. That means you could chain more stuff in, you could talons and all that stuff. So that's why our resources are a bit higher. And our health is a bit lower because you're not going to be in the front, but you're going to sort of still do tank things, just not main tank things, if that makes sense at all. So We use Eben because obviously in trials you're gonna give your group an extra like 1100 HP, and that's always good because there are some people who wanna actually go full deeps and their health is extremely low, so that kind of helps. But realistically, if you're playing with a group that all knows what they're doing, the 1000 extra health doesn't really matter. You could use whatever you want, but this is, I mean, it's just a big group support buff, and it's good to have. But yeah, overall, I like to main tank a little bit more often than everything else. So one would be Eben Alkosh, and the second one would be Plague Doctor. So this is what I use mostly now. So with that said, let's go into our potions. We have Tri-Stat Food, which is the purple food. It's kind of expensive actually, and what it does is give you like max health, magic, and stamina. A little bit lower than blue food, but you get all three of them, which you want, because as a tank you do actually use all three resources. And as for our potions, we have, oh dang, I actually need to restock on potions. Tri-Stat pots, which give you health, magicka, and stamina. I mean, you don't actually need these overall for everything, but if I'm going to do veteran trials, you're definitely going to want Tri-Stat potions, because having resources at all times is always a must. And if you're doing like random dungeons or whatever, you can probably just use the potions that you find off the ground anywhere else. So, I mean, ultimately, you shouldn't be taking 40,000 damage worth of anything in non-veteran trials. So, I mean, you could use whatever, but if you're doing like high-end content, then you're definitely going to want to use the Tri-Stat potions. Alright, so with that said, let's go into our gear. Now, before I do anything, I just want to mention that what I use for gear, or not gear, my skills, is slightly different from what some other people may use, so just keep that in mind. What I use works for me. If you found something that works for you, probably just stay with that one. So first of all, let's go into our one-handed and shield. Of course, you get all the passives. And one, we have Heroic Slash, because when you hit an enemy with it, not only do you deal damage, which is kind of irrelevant as a tank, your DPS is not that important, but you reduce their movement speed and reduce their damage done. So if you could hit as many enemies with the Heroic Slash as possible, then that's good. They take less damage, they're slowed, and you can have them taunted on you with Pierce Armor. So Pierce Armor, it is your taunt ability. You see that little tank icon or the shield right next to it under the roll? That means it's a tank ability. So a lot of people don't actually know this, where you see under the tooltip, it shows you a roll. If you see a shield and sword icon, that means it's mostly used for tank, whereas you see something like healing, these are for healers. So just in case you didn't know that, it's been there forever, but some people just don't know. So Pierce Armor is your melee taunt, and you just go up to things, stab them, and the resistances go down, and they're taunted on you. Next we have Hardened Armor. You increase your physical and spell resistance. You're a tank, you want physical and spell resistance. If you could keep this up as long as possible, I wouldn't say, if you can keep it up 100% of the time, that's always good. It's 20 seconds, so there's no reason not to. Next one is Igneous Shields. Now this one is pretty much just giving you a damage shield. It's essentially like a shield. Nothing more to say about that one. Next on our ability bar is Absorb Magic. You absorb damage from the next projectile or spell projectile, and you heal for 16% of your max health. So you absorb projectiles like magic balls and stuff, and you heal. So it's always good if you can keep this up as much as possible. It doesn't have to be up 100%, but if you can, that's great. I mean, if you can keep all your dots up 100% of the time, you're just a good player. So let's go into our back bar. Now this one is more for like groups of mobs. So like, let's say you're in between bosses, you have to kill a lot of trash. This is what you're gonna want to be on. So first of all, we have our Unrelenting Grip. Now the reason why we have this morph is sometimes you chain an enemy and they don't actually pull to you because this game is wonky, and if you chain an enemy on the stairs, they don't always come to you. So you get like a refund of your abilities or yeah, you just get a refund of your resources. So that happens a lot until they ever fix it. It's probably gonna stay this way. Next we have Inner Rage. This one's not even morphed, or it's morphed, but it's not maxed out. This is also a range taunt ability, and you just taunt things from a distance instead of your melee one. So that's why you kind of want to have 2 taunts overall. Next we have Green Dragon's Blood. It's pretty much your heal. You push the button, you get healed. It's good. Now this is one that I've been playing around with a little bit more. I actually never used this until recently when I was watching some other friends tank. They were like, yeah, this is good. You just never run out of resources. So something I was going to try. This is more of your flex spot. When I say flex spot, that means it's in like changeable. You could use whatever you want. So Equilibrium, you sacrifice a lot of your health for some magicka, and that also goes into our Plague Doctor. We get a lot of extra health, so that's why we can sacrifice a little bit for more resources. So you don't run out of magic. And other things I could say you could run instead of Equilibrium if you aren't running like high health. You could run Necrotic Orb. Or you could run the other morph, which is it's Mystic, the blue one, where if you toss it into a group, it does damage. If you're a healer, you want the Healing Orb, of course. But if you're a tank, it really doesn't even matter which morph you choose. You could also use Bone Shield if you wanted to. I've seen a few people do that. A few other things you could use in place. Igneous Weapons. The reason why I don't use Igneous Weapons as much is because I run with good players and they're usually using weapon or spell potions on cooldown. So if they're not using it, then Igneous Weapons essentially does the same thing. But if they are, then this is just a useless skill. You can use whatever else you want on it. You could also use Inhale, and it pretty much sucks in groups of enemies to you, and you get healed for a percentage of that. You could also pretty much use like whatever else you want, like Fiery Breath, and yeah. So there's a lot of other choices, and whatever you want, you could probably use more, like Shield Charge, whatever. So this one's a kind of flex spot. I've been using Equilibrium a little bit more. Well, I actually just started using it, so it's not like morphed or leveled. So now with my higher health build, I could just sacrifice a little bit of health in exchange for magic, and then when you get healed, you can do it again. You spam the button. Well, actually, don't spam the button. You're probably going to die, but just use it usefully, I guess. So that's what I have. And then Choking Talons is our AoE, stun, snare, CC. And then for our ultimate, I have Aggressive Warhorn on both bars because I don't have Barrier. So ideally, if you had Barrier, you would get the passive and increase your Magicka recovery by 5% for each support ability. So you want Barrier on main bar and Warhorn on back bar. But since I don't have it, I just kind of run Warhorn on both bars. So the morph you want, there's really only one right choice for PvE, and that's Aggressive Horn, because everyone in your group gets a critical damage increase for about like 10 seconds, 9.5. And then, of course, they get all resources. So that's always good. So as a tank, pretty much Warhorn all the way. And yeah, if you had the extra point for Barrier, you want to put it like on one of your bars, probably main bar, and then Warhorn on back. And what else did I forget? Oh yeah, we covered all the racial. In terms of passives, you want to just get all of them. It's really no reason not to. You get additional resistances, more healing, and everything. So yeah. Now this part is going to be the tricky part, where I go over all my CP. Now keep in mind, this CP build is how I play, and what you see, you can try it yourself, but you might get different effects. So yeah, let's start off with the green tree, because I think that one's the most important. Well, actually, green and red are important. Blue is kind of irrelevant for tanks. So we have Shadow Ward. We have 81 points in the Shadow Ward because it gives you 24% to the reduced cost of block, and you are going to be blocking a lot. Now we have 81 instead of 100 because you would need another 19 points just to get 25%. So having 81 in here, 24 to 25% is very minimal, and you probably won't notice a difference. I'd rather just have the 19 extra points into something else. We have 2 into tumbling because I didn't know what else to put the 2 points into, and I kind of roll dodge a lot, so it's kind of just a habit. You don't have to have 2 points in there. I have 76 into tenacity because it increases the magic and stamina of your fully charged heavy attacks. You're going to be heavy attacking quite often because that's really your only attack as a tank. Heavy attack, push, hero strike, and taunt. So we have that. If you can get more resources, that's generally a good thing. Then we have 49 into Mooncalf because I like having stamina recovery because blocking is kind of good. And then you have 2 points into Warlord. Once again, this is because I didn't really know what else to put it in. You would have 4 points extra. So tumbling, and then I have 2 into Warlord. Now, recently with the upcoming patch, or not upcoming, but it already happened as of today. The patch in Halls of Fabrication, you can now block the lightning attack, so you don't get perma-stunned by that. So you might not need as much into Warlord as you used to, because now you can actually like break free of it and block it instead of having to roll dodge out of it. So you might want a little bit less in Warlord now. So whatever you want to put it into, that's up to you. This is just what works for me. Now we have in our red tree, this is pretty much what I use for all my characters, whether it's a healer, tank, or DPS. So just take this in mind. You could set it up as however you want, but this just works for me. 49 into Hardy Elemental Defender just to get above 11%. 48 into Thick Skinned because it boosts it over 18%, so you get the 18% bonus. And then if you put 49, you kind of just get 18.5, which is kind of irrelevant. It scales it down back to 18%, so you want to get it to the lowest as possible. 61 into Ironclad because you're going to take a lot of direct damage. And yeah, if you are any other class besides a tank, I would probably say put 3 into Spell Shield. But in my case, as a tank, I put them into Heavy Armor Focus because I'd rather just have extra physical resistances as it's lower, or as mine are lower than the spell resistance. So that's how I have mine built. And in terms of blue tree, this is kind of irrelevant because none of it really affects tanking. So you can have it however you want. So I have 49 into Blessed because healing done. We do have one ability, 1 or 2, that just kind of heal you slightly, but it's based on percentages, so it's I don't really notice the difference. And then in terms of everything else, 40 into Thaumaturge increases damage done over time. So we pretty much just affects Talons, and that's about it. Precise Strikes increases damage and healing with crits and stamina abilities with 12%. Sometimes I like to swap up stuff. Piercing, mostly because why not just add more damage? There's really nothing else to put in here. Then we have 12 or 56, which is the equivalent of 12% into Mighty, because we do more damage. None of these really affect tanking, so however you want to build your blue tree is up to you. So yeah, overall, that's been my build for the most part. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And with that said, one thing I forgot to mention before we actually wrap up this video is the Mundus stone I used. I used the Atronach just to get the extra Magicka recovery, but you could also use the Lord to get more health. And yeah, so overall, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.